This is the Mystery Writer speaking, and welcome to the show. Today, I am talking to you about the brand smacking new horror film just in time for Halloween. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the review of Come Play. Come Play tells the story of an autistic child named Oliver who becomes the target of a mysterious entity known simply as Larry. Larry just wants a friend, and so he manifests himself through a picture book through an app on the kid's phone, and before long, a tablet. Apparently, Larry has the unique ability of seeing through all electronics or screen. His parents are having a difficult time in their marriage, as the mother is struggling to grasp with the reality of raising a son with a mental disability, while the father doesn't really understand what his wife is actually going through. In the meantime, whoever reads the story on any device that miraculously appears on the screen begins to, and that's all I'm going to tell you about this plot for right now, because again, this is a new movie. Go watch it, because it was actually a really good movie. I will admit, I was a bit concerned, especially after realizing that this is a PG-13 horror film. And let's be honest, we are still having some mental scars from a few not so good PG-13 movies that came out in the last decade. I mean, Ouija, The Bye-Bye Man, remember those? Yeah, not good. Not good at all. No. Hell no. No. Haven't seen Slender Man, but yeah, that looks like a bad movie. Here, on the other hand, it's actually quite the effective story. Now, don't get me wrong. The film isn't perfect. In fact, it's far from being perfect. I'll get to that here in a few moments. But for now, let's talk about the positives. For a PG-13 horror film, it's actually quite effective at being scary and suspenseful. It's not jump scare heavy. I mean, yeah, compared to other slow burners, it can be described as a bit jump scare heavy, but the jump scares in this film are actually quite effective, especially trying to figure out where the invisible entity, Larry, is. The film has a way of gradually building up suspense that actually works. Kudos to the writing and directing. The musical score, accompanied by this suspenseful atmosphere, really helps this movie shine in that regard, with some stellar performances, especially by that kid who portrayed the autistic Oliver extremely well. I am so glad that finally, a movie actually portrays autism correctly. Or, well, decently enough. They don't just say, oh, it's a superpower. It makes you super smart, like in that Predators movie directed by Shane Black. Yeah, that was just dumb. Here, they portray it as a struggle. From the point of view of the parents, anyways. The kid is just trying to live his life. But at the same time, that's where a couple of the problems begin to emerge. Especially with the mother character. Now, she is the primary focus, or at least the secondary focus of the movie, especially since she goes all mother mode and decides to try and protect her child from this entity that later describes itself as the embodiment of loneliness. Humanity's loneliness, that is. Everyone who has ever looked through a screen, that creature is looking back at you. our loneliness as a race created this monster. That's the brilliant part. The not so brilliant part is the lack of depth with the mother character, as well. I believe she definitely could have been better conceived, or at least better portrayed. I'm not sure if this is just weak writing, or not being given the right material, or just a lackluster performance, but for a majority of the film, the mother character is definitely the weakest character out of everyone else. So don't get me wrong, she definitely goes out with a bang. She definitely makes a strong effort in the climax of the movie. But through most of the film, it's almost as if the actress or the writer is really struggling to depict what it's like to be a mother raising a child with mental disabilities, such as autism. I think it could have been done better. Definitely could have been more depth to that character. But she does sort of redeem herself in the climax of the film. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but the mother character is definitely the weakest character out of everyone else in this film. Another aspect that made the film not so perfect was the fact that it was definitely predictable. The twist at the end was definitely foreseeable. You see it like 5 minutes ahead of time. And among a couple other things that were pretty standard and predictable in a horror movie such as this. But overall, I greatly enjoyed this film, and I recommend it. It's enjoyable, it's scary, it's suspenseful, and it even has some fantastic CGI and practical effects. I'm actually surprised by the amount of practical effects this movie used for its monster. Because of its elongated arms and body, it definitely looked like a monster that you would see in a creepypasta or like a Photoshop job, like with Slender Man. I mean, heck, this thing looked like if the Rake had a baby with a Shy Guy from SCP. It literally looks like that. Design, great effects. I greatly enjoyed this film. It was worth seeing, especially after the hassle I went through. The drive-in was having a private event. I had to go 2 towns over to another theater to see it. And there was a Karen fiasco there. I'm not going to go into that, but it was quite something to see. But regardless, I give Come Play a 4.25 out of 5. It's definitely an above average PG-13 horror film. But because of some predictable story elements, some weak characteristics or character development in the form of the mother character, it definitely hindered the movie. And plus, there are a few story elements I believe that could have been further explored, such as why Oliver was no longer friends with Byron. That could have been further developed, but instead it was treated more like this big mystery that we had to find out over time. And by over time, I mean it relied a lot on exposition. But overall, I greatly enjoyed this film, and I recommend it. If there's a theater near you that is playing this movie, go see it. Go see it. It's Halloween. Go enjoy yourself. Well, that's all the time I have for today. This is the Mystery Writer speaking, and until next time, sayonara!